Jim Romer on this Friday. Poor Arctic pig. He froze his, excuse my expression, gonads off here in the last week. So why did natural gas prices collapse after a spike to 420 or so in February natural gas late last week? We're going to talk about that. Talk about why February is going to be cold and another polar vortex may come down within the next couple of weeks, and briefly about the grain market. So, first of all, we told our clients last week that we're long natural gas and various option strategies to hedge some of that because after this extreme cold that has brought snows as far south as Florida and South Texas, the Gulf is going to be warming up here over the next week to 10 days or so. And that means any wells that froze will come back online. And at these prices, we just kind of rallied too quickly, too fast, based on just a polar vortex over the last week or so. We began talking about this cold back in December. So something called the MGO index, a disturbance rotates around the globe every 30 to 60 days, can influence tropical weather for soft commodities for cocoa and sugar, can influence the weather for Argentina and Brazil, as well as, of course, La Nina. And we're seeing that MGO index actually go from a very cold phase over phase 2 and 3 around the Indian Ocean, progressing further east. And as a result, that tends to weaken some of the ridging out west, moderate some of the colder temperatures, and also strengthen something we call the SOI index, the La Nina signal that is warm in the southern part of the country. But that's going to actually change because eventually that MJO, that will break things down temporarily for the Gulf Coast toward warmer weather next week, we'll go into probably phase 7 or 8 again before the 8th or 9th of February. We'll talk about that here in a second. So based on the MJO index, look at the volatility in natural gas here over the last few weeks. Got to be very nimble, got to react to the weather forecast. It's been a complete weather market in natural gas and heating oil spreads here over the last couple of weeks. So when the MJO is in that warmer phase 4, moving to the east of India, what tends to happen is you see the ridge weekend that we had that brought this polar vortex. In other words, to the left, there's that polar vortex that helped create a spike in natural gas to over 420 here in the last week. Look at that blue, and that ridge over the Gulf of Alaska is called the Eastern Pacific Oscillation Index. When it's negative, it forces that cold air south. Notice how that vortex is moving further north, the ridge out west, not as red, weaker, warming up the Gulf next week. One of the reasons why natural gas prices broke here the last few days. See the EPO index going positive? About my teleconnection program, Client Predict, that helps farmers make decisions about grain hedging and traders in buying cocoa about 2 weeks ago again on droughts and problems in West Africa, et cetera, is going for a return to a negative EPO. In other words, that ridge is going to come back along the west coast up across the Gulf of Alaska, and I think we'll have pieces of a polar vortex coming back down at least over the Midwest and Northeast for most of the month of February. So after a brief warming spell, I would think natural gas prices will probably hold the 3 to 320 level over here over the next couple weeks or so. I doubt very seriously you're going to see natural gas prices get below 320 with this kind of weather pattern I'm expecting here over the next few weeks. The US SOI index, a La Nina indicator, and the MGO also creating some really big heat in Argentina. There's some rain in the forecast that's helped pressured soybeans here occasionally, as well as all this tariff discussions, making grain trading pretty complicated. But overall, I think the corn pollination situation is in jeopardy. Yes, some rain in the forecast, but also heat. The charts are pretty positive for corn right now. And what will happen with La Nina and the SOI index into the spring and summer of 2025? How do we look at these trends in rainfall, for example, in Argentina and the cold winter to make projections with La Nina for summer grain market trading? That's what we'll be talking here in Weather Wealth over the next few months. We have various option and future strategies in grain, soft commodities, and of course in natural gas. Enjoy, stay warm. A lot more colder weather coming for much of the Midwest and also the Northeast over the next couple weeks after a temporary warming trend.